hit record and then we can chat whatever. I don't know a ton about your background. I do know that you want podcasters to do intros because I creeped on you a little bit. And it's something I definitely agree on, which is that when people introduce themselves, they do the same talk track that they always do in every podcast. So it can be a bit annoying. And something I definitely subscribe to is this idea that the host introduces all the regular talking points and then goes, is there anything that I missed? Right.
Yeah.
So I really like that. So yeah, you're pretty accessible. You're for LinkedIn. You did marketing for a bit. Then you were head of growth at Baremetrics. But also you've been doing the stair step stuff, which you do not put on LinkedIn. So Hey Marketers, Refactoring Growth, Mental Models Marketing, and now SwipeFiles. And then your step 4 is going to be your SaaS. So we can talk about that kind of stuff. And the people watching and listening are going to be pretty familiar with like the stair step approach and basically like the indie hacker canon.
Right.
But we can just talk about these ideas because I think I'm also kind of like semi heading down that path, and we can definitely swap notes. I think where I guess I wanted to kick this off with was just you're thinking about going full time. I think that was like a big moment for me. I was like, oh, this isn't just like a side project for you now. Like this is you're really serious about this. I'm sure you like that was not an easy decision. I think you wrote a blog post about it. I kind of read it, and apparently like you had this conversation with Josh Levy from Holloway.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just like talk to me about like how that was like emotionally. Like, I mean, I think this is a topic that's super interesting to a lot of people.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think as I mentioned in the article, I wanted to be an entrepreneur for a long time since I was 19. I'm 25 now, almost 26, and so it's been sort of top of mind. And when I say like I wanted to be an entrepreneur, like I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like it wasn't like a entrepreneur aspiring like, oh, one day I think it'd be nice to own my business. Like I am every single second of the day thinking about what can I do today that's going to help me become an entrepreneur one day, or the next day or next year. So every opportunity, job wise, learning, book, resources, whatever it is, it's always been like, how do I use this as a stepping stone to get to where I wanted to be? So all that to say, when the pandemic hit, it really got me thinking about taking it a little bit more seriously and kind of finally taking that step. One, because I was kind of fed up with just being employed. This is shared in like a private community, right?
It is a private community. But I mean,
Okay.
Baremetrics, I do know that there was some sale going on and all that. But it is I can cut out whatever as well. I'm just interested in you and just having a chat with you.
Yeah, no, I want to be as candid as possible, and to be honest, because it's nothing against Josh or against Baremetrics at all, but I sort of felt like I was getting gypped because I was the only marketing and salesperson in the company, and there was already like a decent amount of kind of friction around. I don't know if you can tell, but if you know Josh and you just go through his Twitter, he's actually very averse to marketing and sales, and like just kind of is like allergic to it and wants to stay away from it. So I was like the necessary evil in the company, kind of like working in a straitjacket, like, hey, everything that you do, we have to like change it and pare it down so that it's not as like marketing-y, which I never really understood. And so I was starting to get really bored. I mean, we were getting great results, like not a huge company, not ginormous growth, but by me joining the company, we were able to add, several $100,000 in annual recurring revenue, and I'm still making my tiny paycheck with, one-time bonuses. And it just feels like, dude, this is not a good deal for me when I'm doing all the work for this. And then
and the founder isn't even bought in. Yeah.
Right. And the founder hasn't even bought into what I'm doing.
I mean, he's
so
bought in
I
enough
totally
to hire you. I mean, he could have just not had a hit of growth.
Right. So he's bought enough to hire me. But then there was a lot of friction because especially through the pandemic, I was actually the one who was like, hey, we should do like less marketing or like different marketing, or we should really focus on the community. But Josh was still very like, grow. We need to really like hit the pavement. We need to be out there. We need to be able to prove what's working. We need to, experiment with ad channels. I was kind of like, I don't know if that's really the right approach for us. And so I was thinking by the end of August or end of September that I would sort of leave and go out on my own anyways. Now, what ended up happening that I didn't know was that the company was being prepared to be acquired, which was great. I thought from the get-go that he should sell it and that he wasn't really in the right place for it anymore. And he's a maker. He's not really a CEO manager type. Um, and so I was happy for that. That's not a problem. So in September, I was actually let go. So it was perfect timing for me because I was like, great, I don't have to be the one to leave. A month later, things made a little bit more sense when I was like, okay, company acquired, restructure, going to a new team. He's just preparing everything, reducing the burn rate, and I wasn't really doing a lot of useful things by the end, anyways. Again, because felt like I was working with a straitjacket. So, anyways, all that to say, the decision was made for me in a way, but more the decision for me was, do I go, find another job, or do I take this thing seriously and go full time on SwipeFiles? And that's really where I started to put the pieces together and think, no, I want to make a run at this. I want to give it my all. I want to not have to work for someone else again. When I left, I don't say this to be conceited, but I had like 100 job opportunities just like thrown in my lap informally of like, hey, we really want you to apply for this thing. And quite literally like a massive amount. Same thing with consulting. Like I started doing some consulting just to be able to pay the bills. And technically I haven't gone full time on SwipeFiles, and I'll get to that in a second. But I've had to turn away an insane amount of leads that I'm super blessed to be able to say that I had the interest for.
Just a follow-up question on that. Was that
Yeah,
because of your prior, I guess, public work? Like, were they all
totally.
like marketed, like, yeah, essentially like you were putting out a lot of stuff anyway. So that was kind of your lead gen.
Right. I was putting out a lot of stuff. I'd grown a decent following on Twitter. People knew what I was doing. I was very involved, especially in like the bootstrap SaaS kind of community. And I was also through Barometrics, and this is one of the amazing opportunities that I got through Barometrics was I was talking to, 10 to 20 CEOs, founders, or marketing leaders
Oh, your
at companies
customers.
every week who were customers. Yeah. And so I met a lot of amazing relationships that turned either into mentoring or just friends or advisors or people I could just turn to and call them friends. And so, yeah, 100%. A lot of it was just through connections and things that I had already done in the past.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, and then I guess you're going to talk about SavvyCal. That was the opportunity.
Yeah, so SavvyCal is like the one main consulting client that I decided to take on. One, because there was a startup idea that I had and was really bullish on, and I knew that he was working on it, and I'd sent him a whole bunch of ideas, and so when he reached out to me, I was like, I can't say no. Like it's going to be a lot of fun, and it'll pay the bills, and it'll just kind of be like a win-win. So I count that as a blessing, and that's been a lot of fun. But in the next coming months, like my goal really is to truly actually go full time on SwipeFiles, to really give it my time and attention, because what's happened is that, to pay the bills, I still have to give consulting and mentoring clients. So I work with 2 companies right now on consulting basis and 8 companies on a mentoring advisory basis.
No.
And so it still takes up essentially 3 days out of my work week and the majority of my mental share, because I'm trying to get them results, and I'm brainstorming, and I'm checking in over Slack and email, and writing down ideas, doing research. And so SwipeFiles is still like secondary, which is lame. And there's like 100 things that I want to do for it, and all these things that I think I can do to get it to where it is paying my bills, but I just haven't quite yet. So now I feel like I'm getting to a point where like, no, I need to actually give SwipeFiles my full attention, not just release myself from employment, but actually employ myself through this thing.
Yeah, I mean you're getting there. Your goal is 1,000 true fans, but I think you're default alive now.
Almost, yeah. I've reached rent money status. So I have 206 members as of this recording. The interesting part about the membership though is that it's an annual upfront membership, and so it sounds good because you get a good amount of money upfront. But then what happens is that every month you start from scratch again, unless you have a renewal. But that's something that you would have done last year, right?
Yeah.
So in April, I'm expecting my first renewals, which is going to be great, but I still am starting from scratch every month on acquiring new members. So to be default alive for me, technically, I need to either get to about 500 members, which I then know on an ongoing basis will average out to something that can, be ramen profitable for me, or I need to consistently acquire about 50 new members per month, and that I know will pay the bills for me, and then eventually get me to that 1,000 true fans. So that's kind of the crux of like where I'm trying to ramp up to in order to be able to get my full-time attention and possibly subsidize it a bit with a little bit of savings.
Yeah, I think Derek's actually mentioned this because he started out only monthly, and then I think I had to like go bother him for an annual plan because I just wanted
Yeah,
to.
he doesn't have it like built in yet.
Yeah, I know. Then and he was like, I think he actually mentioned on his podcast that it's weird. It's harder to figure out like what the churn might be if you don't know. Anyway, before we get too technical, I just wanted to like zoom out a little bit again.
Yeah.
You're super motivated about being an entrepreneur and I guess financial freedom, whatever that is. Is there like a motivational, like is there someone, is it somebody, some story that really motivates that? Like how come you've been almost obsessed by this for so long? Like I feel like people have to work for a bit and then they find their way to this lifestyle. What
Right.
yeah, I mean, just go back a little bit on that.
I think really plugging in and finding the indie hackers community has been probably like the main driving factor to me.
Okay.
It's kind of like, again, it's a blessing and a curse, because once you see someone like today, one of the people I would say that I look up to is Jordan O'Connor. He's a solo founder. He
Closet
has
tools.
one SaaS company, Closet Tools, and makes over 40 grand a month. He barely works on it and it keeps growing. And like, that's the dream. Like who wouldn't want to be Jordan in that scenario, right? And so you hear these stories for years about, I kind of stumbled into it because when I first started in college, I thought I wanted to go into accounting and finance. Ended up not liking it that much and found myself building websites for people and like brainstorming how to get them leads for their local business or whatever it was. And then I transferred colleges and they didn't actually have an accounting or finance degree. So I went into marketing and then found, oh, this makes a ton of sense. By that time, I had already discovered podcasts like Mixergy and Stars for the Rest of Us, and then eventually Indiehackers. And then in your head all day long, I was commuting from Alpine in San Diego to downtown, which is about a 45-minute drive without traffic, with traffic. So I was driving for literally about 4 to 5 hours a day for about 4 years. And all day long, I had these stories of people being entrepreneurs, having financial freedom, guys going the VC route, guys going the indie hacker route. And it's like, once you taste it, you kind of can't go back. Like once you see what's possible, you want it. Like you're dissatisfied with anything less than that. So that's like the very superficial kind of answer to that. But I think very innately for me, very like naturally, I want to have some sort of like autonomy over my own, like what I work on, what I like working on. I've never been like, I've always been someone who gets great grades and who complies and follows the rules, but kind of with a grudge. Like I will do all the work and do things right to get me to get me out of it. I hated school. I hated college. I hated all the schoolwork. I hated the entire program, but I did it to get me a job, which I thought then could get me into a place where I could be a business owner. And so I think just innately, I want to have autonomy. I want to be able to work on what I want to work on and have some sort of control over mastery. I want to have some sort of purpose where, again, like I know, like, does this thing give me some sort of fulfillment, but also does this enable me to some degree financially to maybe not have to work someday, or to be able to work less and choose my own hours. Or maybe that does have some sort of greater impact. And those just aren't things that I saw with employment. And I think that's totally reasonable for a lot of other people. It's just, for me, I think with a combination of seeing what's possible and then also innately not being maybe fit for kind of like the traditional mold of an employee, was what made me so driven to be an entrepreneur.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, that's totally legit. And yeah, I mean, I've definitely spent a couple years listening to the exact same things in my head, and it's kind of weird because like you're choosing to indoctrinate yourself,
Exactly. Yep.
but you're kind of giving yourself ammo. And it's kind of
Yep.
weird because like you still have to do the job as an employee, but then you're always thinking outside of work about this stuff, and definitely something
Yeah.
I do struggle with.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of the other things for Barometrics too, where I was like, I'm just not interested in doing this anymore. Like all
Yeah.
my thoughts are around SwipeFiles and hair marketers and other business ideas. And like, I'm kind of not doing my job as well as I could because I'm so interested and focused on these other things outside of work. And
It
at some point you have to think, well, I either need to like put that all away and forget about it and focus on my work, or I need to move on to my work to get to those things.
yeah.
And so that's the route that I chose.
Do you feel some irony in like this? Um, you work so hard to get to a point where your professional reputation is getting you all these opportunities, right? Like, you know, just people giving you, and I kind of get that too. But by the time you get there, you kind of want something else.
Oh yeah.
And don't you feel like, so that's a little bit what I feel right now, which is like I'm choosing to walk away from this thing which I earned and built a reputation for myself for, to do something slightly different, which is hopefully closer to what I want. Um,
Mm.
I don't know did you have like FOMO, or I don't know I don't know what to call it,
Yeah. I mean,
sunk
uh,
cost.
right. Some cost fallacy a little bit. I mean, a little bit because um, something I've learned about myself is that it's very easy for me to have like shiny object syndrome and also just like if you're an ambitious person, then every milestone is just like a means to an end to the next milestone. And so it's like this vicious cycle of like, okay, got here, now looking at the next thing, got there, looking at the next thing, and then like you're never happy. So I think I've learned to find some contentment and to find some happiness through that. I also just think, I was thinking before I left Barometrics, well, will I really be happier like working for myself or like working on my own stuff and even like doing consulting? Or is it just going to be kind of that maybe this fallacy that I've created for myself, the story that I've told myself, and it might not be true. But it definitely has been true. And now that's my thinking for this next milestone of like actually going truly full time on SwipeFiles is I find myself, I love doing the consulting, I love helping people, but it's still not like the thing that I want to do. And I think that I will be happier, more fulfilled, more driven working for myself entirely. And when I get there, I think that I'll find that I might forget about the pain and struggle before, but I can think about being employed at Barometrics, before that being employed at Cordial, before that being employed at a church, before that being employed at Funflix. And like, I am way happier where I am now than I was at any one of those points. And I was way happier at Barometrics than I was at Cordial. And I was way happier at Cordial than I was at my church. And so you just have to remember a little bit about where you came from. And then I think you find more happiness in where you are today, even if it's not ultimately where you want to end up in.
Yeah, hedonistic adaptation. Like we always adjust to
Exactly.
where we are right now, and then we forget that
The
we're actually
hedonic
a lot
treadmill.
better off than we used to be. Yeah.
100%.
So before I actually do want to dive into SwipeFiles a bit, because I feel like people
Let's do it.
might be interested. Before we get there, I wanted to touch on one more thing, which I really got a lot of value from. You do a lot of marketing, but you also were on the Louis Nichols sales podcast. And then I
Yeah.
listened to it, and you like dictated an email, and I was like, what? You were like super confident about it. And I was like, holy shit, like I got to write this down. So I actually collect these things because I mean, I don't have to do sales yet, but someday I will. And you seem to have
Yeah.
some experience with this. Even I couldn't tell from like where this came from, but you were like, you dictated this email. I'm just going to show it just because
Sure.
we're on
Yeah.
Zoom,
I
right?
basically, as
Right.
the head of growth for Barometrics, I was head of marketing and sales. And so even though it
Ah,
didn't really seem like it, I was actually doing a lot of sales at Barometrics, working one-on-one with customers, converting trials, doing outreach. I just didn't talk about it as much, of
yeah.
course, with the exception of this podcast.
But I mean, it's a super useful skill, and there's some people. I mean, there's definitely on the side of like not enough people doing sales, because it involves talking to people and asking for things.
That's right. It's hard.
And so you had this thing. Where did this come from? I mean, I'll I'll send people to the podcast, but like, I just want to know the story behind this.
Yeah. So this email, the focus was, I kind of had this thesis at Baremetrics, which was to start from the bottom of a funnel and work your way up. So instead of, and you could think of a funnel anyway, but I like to use the Pirate Metrics AARR. So you have
Mhm.
acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. So instead of starting from the top and kind of having this leaky bucket syndrome, where maybe you might, um, you might get someone to your website, but you might not convert them, or you get them on your newsletter, you might not turn them into a customer, get them to start a trial to turn into a customer, etc. You start from the bottom at revenue. And so what I thought, and when I was thinking about, okay, how can I make the most of this kind of revenue function? This is early on in Parametrics. I thought, well, we have so many people who were in the product, who were customers, but canceled for some reason, or maybe they were trialing users, but they didn't convert. So we have this huge database of people who have been with us at some point, expressed a high amount of interest, were even paying money at some point, and then decided not to. So, and I was also going through a period where I was doing a lot of customer research. So I just thought it'd be an interesting kind of data point to get this. And I was trying to think, well, how do you reach out to people who have paid you and canceled and like probably don't really want to hear from you ever again, or expired as a trial and might not even remember that they were a trialing user? And so that's why I decided to write something like this. And my goal was to make it as personable and authentic and basically honest as possible. So that's why I said, I'll keep this short. I recently joined the Baremetrics team. I'm looking for one piece of information, because I knew that they were our customer, right? Because this was the email for the customers. There was a separate email for the expired trials, but I just wanted to see, what would make you become a paid customer again? And I really just wanted to know. It's kind of a practice of inversion, but there's a lot of, I was looking through other people's emails and asking people around of, hey, how do you reach out to someone like this? And they would say, oh, send them a survey, or send an offer for like a discount again. But like that, it really doesn't get to the core of why they canceled their plan in the first place.
Mm.
So I thought, why don't I just ask them that, and ask, but I can't just ask them why they canceled, because, well, one, we already have a lot of the information through Cancellation Insights, one of the products at Baremetrics. And they may or may not have already expressed that in some capacity. So I thought, why don't I just like flip it and invert it and ask, what would it take for them to become a customer again? And then they can rehash maybe some of the things that were top of mind for them, or they could basically just throw me a bone and say, hey, if you can deliver on this thing, I'll become a customer again. I can try to find a way to make that happen for them. So anyways, a long way of saying that was kind of the thinking behind coming up with this email.
No, it's solid. 74% open rate, 19% reply rate, and you do a follow up, right, with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, even I think when I did this podcast, it was pretty recent. I think the last number I saw was it was a 90% open rate and a 26% reply rate. Like, it's been the most successful email I've ever sent in my entire life.
Something like that. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But like I like collecting these inspirations, so I don't have to think it up myself ever. In fact, probably
it's SwipeFile.
Yeah, it's a SwipeFile, right? So yeah, I guess that leads us nicely into SwipeFiles. And I kind of just want like a demo a little bit, because like I still feel like I get the concept of a swipe file. The dashboard, the favorites, like we had a bit of conversation about the favorites, right? This when it was, yeah, exactly, this when I came here, it was empty. And this is one of my pet peeves, actually, that developers always forget the empty states. So there's this inspiration diagram to show, like, we always forget the empty state, and like these are the creative things that you can do to get people to use your thing. Because when the cold start is like when people land, they don't know what to do. So you can just tell them.
Right, you can just direct them.
But anyway, let's talk about SwipeFiles. Like, so pretend I've never seen the actually just like what is SwipeFiles, and what do you want it to be?
I'd say very literally, SwipeFiles is a membership site for marketers. That's kind of like the easiest, simplest way that I describe it. And when I describe it to my mom and to other people who are not in tech, those are the words that I use. Really, the thought behind it is to have like a combination of things that help people do marketing better, to master marketing. So kind of the phrase I've been using more recently is content, community, and courses to master marketing. Now with that, I have like a lot of things in flux. And so like, it's all very work in progress still. And it's sort of like I'm still like building how's it go? Building the airplane on the way down.
Yeah.
Right. So like some things are still being assembled. I would say at the core of it is really the community. And that's where a lot of the value is, a lot of the interaction. That's probably like the most mature part of the product or the membership.
Yeah.
There's still a lot to be done and still have like a lot of big plans there, but the community is definitely like the core thing and basically the core reason why people sign up today. There's also the teardowns.
I had some authentication things with this, so I haven't been able to log in yet.
Yeah, I'll help you out with that.
All right. Sorry.
The teardowns are what I started with, because that was kind of like my entry point. I thought this is something new I could build, interest around, so I could attract the right people, and then maybe figure out what to do with it later. So I've kind of like paused the teardowns, but there's still like this library of teardowns you can search through for examples. Again, built for my own kind of need for people explaining why something's good. Like I don't just want, there's SwipeFile.com and there's Swipe.co, which are like just these massive libraries of examples. But I want to know which examples are good and why they're good. And so that's why I sort of wrote some of the teardowns. It's Swiped.co. It's past tense. And then now there's a couple other pieces. So I'm kickstarting this newsletter, which is kind of just like content, right? So thought leadership and more tactical things, but I only have 2 articles there right now. And then I also have this brain idea. So the brain is basically like, here's a swipe file if you don't have one already, or that you can add to built-in Notion. But it's a little bit janky, and the tool I was using, it's not it's not rendering. So
it's like a Chrome. I imagine you use like a Chrome extension, right, to add these.
Kind of. It's built on top of Notion, and right now it's built on Super, and they don't support galleries, which is a big bummer. But I think I'm gonna have a fixed port soon. But anyways, the thought here is like, hey, if you got nothing else out of the membership, here's just like a massive swipe file that you can use and reference. So it's just a combination. I mean, really, I've been kind of testing the waters of what I think would be most compelling, but I'm trying to just give people as many reasons to join as a member as possible. And then at different times, they might have needs for different things, but at least I have something to offer.
Yeah, I'd say I kind of do the same thing with my community, like a 3-tier thing, except that I have a book and then the community and then like creators mastermind type of thing, which is like a mixed bag, because I'm not full time. I don't intend to ever be full time on this, but we have really good conversations. Actually, I'll send you an invite if you want to check it out. But cool. No, like this is really, I think I first joined because of the teardowns, because to me the teardowns always, like, a good teardown is worth its weight in gold, because then I learn a lot. I can't find it right now.
No worries.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, like a good teardown, I really just, I mean, this is evergreen, and it's what's really great. I mean, I almost want to replicate this, because I find this a lot. Have you come across Harry Dry's stuff?
Yeah, I love Harry Dry's stuff.
I think that's good marketing.
Just good marketing. Marketingexamples.com.
Yeah. I mean,
there's also
there's tons.
Part of my inspiration for SwipeFiles too was oh dang it, now I'm gonna lose it. Pageflow, I think it is pageflow.com. And there's also an onboarding specific one called oh dang it,
Pageflow.
Maybe it's pageflow.com.
Onboarding. I have this somewhere. Hang on. I have this.
Yeah.
no, but I mean,
remember.
We all need inspiration, and no, it's not app queues. Oh, I don't know where I put it. Anyway,
Pageflows.com.
Like, you feel this the moment you have to make your own landing page, essentially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think
Totally.
I almost think every marketer should basically make their own swipe files like that.
Oh
It's kind
yeah.
of
No,
like your
everyone should
study
have a
process.
swipe file.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I was actually just listening to the podcast interview with Guy Raz interviewing Tim Ferriss.
Mhm.
And when he was first starting out, he built a swipe file, and then he studied, rewrote, recreated a whole bunch of marketing samples that he had collected. And that's how he learned marketing and sales. And this was all the way back in 2001, 2000. Right. So it's not like a new concept. It's just like a little bit obscure and specific to marketers. But the concept also relates to, like, in the personal knowledge management space. There's this idea of
My notes.
I always butcher the pronunciation, but it's Zettelkasten, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
There's building a second brain.
Yeah.
There's things like even like getting things done, right? But all sorts of ways for people to basically collect examples, process knowledge, study things, and reference later, right? And that's SwipeFile is just like the word that we use for that for marketing.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes total sense. I mean, I like I just like how it's presented, and like it's very narrative. Like you could just read it top to bottom and read your commentary on this, and you highlight stuff. Like it's really cool.
Thanks, man.
So
Yeah.
I guess you're just like working on this on the side for like, oh, actually you only started this in March, right?
Yeah. So I was just putting out a teardown every week since
Holy crap. But you have a lot of
March.
teardowns. You have a lot of
Yeah,
teardowns.
it's a little bit oversold because some of them are still like work in progress.
Gotcha.
But I think I've completed somewhere around 50 or 60, I want to say.
Wow. That is pretty awesome. What's your favorite teardown? I don't know. Like what's a really unusual one that kind of sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, I really like the competitor comparison pages. If you just go to the top and then filter for that on the subcategory.
Wow, there's a lot here.
One of those. Yeah, this is one of the things I need to figure out. There we go, comparison pages. I really like Drifter Intercom. I also really like, there's a couple more. Oh yeah, I also really like Twist versus Slack. Although that one, the images kind of came out kind of wonky.
Do you just like use the Chrome screenshot tool, or do you, I guess you just use like a
there's another extension. No, there's another extension that will take like a full page screenshot. But the issue is that if there's any sort of animation or like expanding components within the page, then it just, well, you'll see it with Twist versus Slack, but it just doesn't come out right.
Looks fine.
Yeah, so you see those, no, you see those dead spaces.
Oh, I mean, I just put that down to
right there
to designers liking spaces.
Yeah, you can see it's kind of cut off.
Let it breathe. You know Chrome can do the full page thing, right? It might do a better job.
Really? I didn't know that actually.
That's hang on. Does it let me show you. This is my own personal nice. Google. Because I don't like the junk. So you just do like full size screenshot here.
Okay, wait, you lost me already.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so you pull up the DevTools.
Okay. Yep.
This is not it, but whatever. Pull up the DevTools, and then you do Command Shift P to pull up the panel within the DevTools.
The panel. Okay.
Yeah, and then full size screenshot. So it just takes the screenshot for you. And it's at the browser level. So hopefully, oh, there you go. So hopefully, yeah, this is the full size screenshot from Chrome. So it might be better, high fidelity. I don't know. I don't use it very often. But that's what I do for like long mobile views and stuff like that.
Yeah, do me a favor, Google, just really quick, Twist versus Slack. And I think you'll be able to, I don't remember the exact URL, otherwise I'd tell you.
Oh, here it is. They paid it for an ad there.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yep.
there we go. Okay.
So you'll see that there's some sort of animations, and let's see just how it
screen.
shows up.
Okay. Oh, even worse. Oh,
Yeah,
well. Okay,
so,
well, never mind. This is a hard problem.
yeah, it's a bummer. I know.
I guess it's probably just JavaScript. It's probably just like async loading these. Oh, I see what you mean by the
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh, that's annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Which I get it. Like, how could it screenshot things that are changing and moving?
Yeah,
But
exactly. Well, I mean, I think you did a decent job here. Like it's readable, and really, I only care about the sections, right? Because like, yeah, here,
right.
this is what I care about.
Yeah.
So that's pretty great. Yeah, I remember that SavvyCal actually did some comparison things too. Did you have a hand in that? Oh, by the way, I love SavvyCal.
Oh yeah.
I can't get to the
Thanks.
marketing
Yeah,
page.
I wrote all the copywriting for the website.
If I'm logged in, I can't get to the marketing page, right?
Right. I know it's kind of annoying.
It's fine.
You can take that up with
I'll just
Derek.
do the incognito. It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Where's the? Do I go bottom? There we go.
Yeah, it should be in the footer.
Oh, this is money. I love this. Okay, so yeah, talk to me about this. What did you think about here? I'm just kind of curious because I've done comparison pages before and I really struggled.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely not an easy thing to do, and to do it in a way where you're not disparaging the competitor, but you're also not like punching too light and actually like, you know, saying something worthwhile. I mean, one of the main things that I started with at SavvyCal was positioning. So reworking the main landing page and describing it in a way that would click for people, because it still wasn't, you know, I think the previous headline was like a savvy scheduler for entrepreneurs or something like that. It was like a meeting schedule for savvy entrepreneurs. And it was kind of like, well, it doesn't really tell me a lot about what I should expect or, you know, what I would like about it. And inevitably, there was also a lot of questions about, well, how does this compare to Calendly? How does this compare to what I'm currently using, like fill in the blank? And so after we're done with the positioning and revamped the main landing page, it was basically like, okay, well, people are already asking this question anyway, so we might as well have a page or somewhere to point them to. But also, there's going to be like, there's a lot of big brands. Like, I call it kind of marketing judo, but when you have competitors that are like these big incumbents that are well known, you can use that to your advantage by trying to basically create pages that siphon off some of their traffic for their brand, right? So if someone searches for Calendly, we might be on the second or third page, but we're there. But if someone searches Calendly alternative, maybe because they're unhappy with it, we want to be there at the top result, right? And so let's create a page that really targets people who are looking to switch away from Calendly. So we also knew that there's kind of an inbound marketing opportunity for people to find SavvyCal this way. We're not at the top of the page yet, but we're getting close. I think we're on like the second page, I want to say. Still, we get a good amount of, you can see product is actually listed pretty high too, which was one of the other things that we knew. But basically, I mean, the page is really just there to describe why people switch from Calendly to SavvyCal. Through the positioning exercise, we already had a lot of the main differentiators. We used the exact words of people like yourself who described why they're switching off of Calendly, and that people did. And then we made it easy to describe, hey, if you're looking for these things, switch over to SavvyCal if you're not happy with Calendly. And I'm oversimplifying it a lot, but you know, there's some style points. And like, I took this section from that drift versus intercom page that we just referenced in the SwipeFiles Teardowns.
Yeah.
There's a lot of differentiators, so we made that little summary section that has like the 9 kind of bullet point reasons why someone would switch.
Yeah.
And then below it just really gets into, yeah, and then it gets into like point by point. SavvyCal does this, Calendly doesn't do that. SavvyCal does this, Calendly doesn't do that. Just to like really articulate clearly, so there's no question about the differences between them.
Yeah, I mean, it looks great. The copy is like short and sweet. I'd be curious to check like what's the time on site for this per page, and like, you know, I wonder if like people actually make it all the way down here.
I mean, it gets a good amount of signups and traffic.
Yeah.
And we see, which button they click on, and that's actually like the main call to action at the bottom.
This one.
We've also run some Twitter ads to these pages, and they get a good amount of clicks over to them. And then we'll usually see that someone will go back to the homepage or to the pricing page and then sign up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also not really here to convert people. It's to inform people to give them information they need to convert on another page or another time, or to come back at a certain point.
Cool. Well, I mean, that's an excellent example of what really good consulting and just like applying the SwipeFiles to something real. And obviously you had a hand in the Product Hunt launch. So I just realized that Product Hunt does these alternative things, and you basically like gamed your way to the top. I mean, not gamed, but like being the top of one day gets you to the top of Product Hunt's page, which is number 3 organically. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's the thing that keeps on giving. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm pretty sure that fairly, within like this year, we'll be closer. It will be on the first page for our like native page. But
so let me push back on that. What makes you so sure? Because this is very, very competitive. What makes you so sure?
I think that the way that we structured the pages and just like SEO in general stands a better chance against a lot of these tools. But also we're going to be doing some link building. We're already doing a little bit of it. But I think that it's such a new page and we're such a new domain anyways, that over time, I think that we're going to have a better chance of being there. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of those are kind of like in tangential industries, or they kind of like roundabout talk about alternatives to Calendly. Like we very clearly use, SavvyCal versus Calendly alternative a bunch of times. And even you can see with the URL, it's just Calendly alternative. So we're trying to exact match a lot of things that some of the other sites aren't doing.
Yeah. Gotcha. Perfect. I think this is a really good overview. I'm actually curious if you have any, I guess, open questions that you're thinking about for SwipeFiles, or that you just wanted to talk to me about. Oh, did you lose audio? I can pause.
Sorry, my AirPods died. Can you hear me okay still?
Yeah, I can hear you better now. Your microphone's really good.
Yeah, sorry, I should have used this in the beginning. I'll try to turn your volume down so there's no bleed. Sorry.
No, it's all good. No, I was just bringing it to close anyway. I mean, I thought this is a really good overview of like everything you got going on. I think it's a really inspirational journey, and like you execute really well. I think I'm the kind of guy, like I tend to overcomplicate things, and I think you have a good sense for like, simplicity and communicating ideas and applying it to something useful. So I mean, I just I think it's an inspirational story, and it definitely helps me to think about the kind of thing that I want to do.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I've been trying really hard to not be a perfectionist and like just get things out the door, and like some things might be broken or like half baked, but just to kind of have it out there and then iterate a little bit later. And that way it's, burning in the back of my mind, and I'll get to it rather than like never getting to it. And so we'll see, but you can always follow along too. I don't know if you've seen the 1,000 True Fans page.
I have.
I
don't know where it is, but I think it's just
constantly
1,000,
updating
right?
list of members. You can kind of follow along my journey there.
I mean, your blogging is really, it kind of reflects that. It's like very personal, very yeah. I mean, you get people excited and bought in along the way. It's great. I think
appreciate it. Yeah, it's
I think
glad to know it's seen.
The funnel is something like doing marketing or whatever you call it, growth for something like this versus something like this. It's very different. Like this has a playbook, this doesn't.
Yeah, 100%. That is the hard part. That marketing SwipeFiles has been one of the toughest parts, because when the marketing content and marketing things is the product, what is the marketing? right? So like it's been difficult to really, it could go in either way. Like, oh, I could do a newsletter and have it be free, and that's like the marketing thing that I do, or as part of the membership, or there's like a blend in between. But then like I have to have these really clear lines to get people to upgrade. So I'm trying to package as much into the membership as possible, just to like really sweeten the pot and make it as a no-brainer as possible for someone to sign up. And then the main marketing thing for me will be my Twitter and this new podcast that I'm launching here pretty soon. That'll be like the inbound, top of funnel thing to get eyeballs on SwipeFiles to become members.
Yeah, interview podcast, right? Yeah, I mean it sounds really awesome. Like, do you have, so, I basically was gonna turn it around and go like, do you have any questions for me, or like open questions that you're kind of debating right now?
Yeah, I'd be curious for you, like, what are the biggest roadblocks or reservations or hesitations about marketing for you, and like the way that you think about it, the way you do it, what's appropriate for you and what you're working on?
So, right now, my main side hustle, my only side hustle is this book and community. I have only done Twitter, and podcasts and talks and stuff like that. I have completely ignored Reddit, LinkedIn, Facebook, because I don't know. So let me scratch that. I think I've been decently successful on Twitter. Um, and this year, I think I should push my boundaries of my own comfort limit. So just because I'm not on Facebook doesn't mean that there are not developers on Facebook, and I should probably try to reach them. Do you should I should I just go straight to like paid market, like paid ads, and just try my luck? Is that is that something that you do?
Here's what I've been realizing across a lot of my personal experience, as well as working with consulting clients and mentoring and advising, is that a lot of people feel like they don't do enough marketing, in the way that they're not like widely kind of spread across a lot of different tactics or channels or strategies, and they feel like they're kind of leaving money on the table. But the reality is that they usually haven't gone deep enough, and they haven't done enough of one or two or three things max. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people, like, it's super easy to have shiny object syndrome with marketing, because it's, oh, let me like try to build a following on LinkedIn. Let me run ads on LinkedIn. Let me join LinkedIn groups. Like, for every platform or channel, like there's like 4 or 5 different strategies that you go after for each one. So you end up with this ginormous list of 100+ things you could do, and you're only doing 1 or 2. So you look at it and feel like you're a failure, when in reality, you probably only need like 1 to 3 main things that you do that are marketing, right? And if you do those things really well, and you invest in those things and you grow those things, then everything else is going to be like a bonus, or it's going to be a waste of time because it's not going to give you, it's going to be like diminishing returns, right? Where like you've reached kind of like the peak of the power law, and everything else isn't going to really be worth it. So like for me, for example, that's why I mentioned the podcast is going to be one thing I do. My Twitter is going to be another thing I do. And then going on other people's podcasts, workshops, conference talks, newsletter swaps is going to be like the third thing I do. And that's all the marketing that I'm going to do. And it's sort of, working to a certain degree right now, but I'm not even going to look at ads. I'm not going to look at sales. I'm not going to be on all the channels. I'm only on Twitter, basically. I like check into my LinkedIn once in a while. I never go on Facebook, never go on Instagram. I know that there are marketers there, but it's just, I think for me and my interests, and the place that I can get the highest leverage is on Twitter. And so why waste my time with those other channels? But instead of just like letting those things coast, I'm going to really double down on them. So I'm starting this podcast. I'm going to put a lot into that. My Twitter, I've been intentional about growing, but I'm going to be a lot more intentional about growing it. Collaborating with others. Again, been kind of doing that passively, but going to be really intentional about that. So I always try to challenge people, like, what are the things you're doing now that are working moderately well that you can make work really well? And what are the things that you've been doing passively that you can do actively? And those are usually the 1 to 3 things that will get you to where you need to be marketing wise.
Those are good questions. I'll have to
Even
think about that.
I'll give you an example for SavvyCal too,
Yeah.
where we sat down, and it's very easy and fun to just write down a bazillion marketing ideas. But when we really sat down and thought about it, we thought, well, the product is going to do a lot of the marketing for us because it has this kind of exposure loop where
Mm-hmm.
people can overlay their calendar,
Every
and
time I
also
share a
just
link.
in general,
Yep.
yeah, using the product means that you're getting it in front of new people all the time.
Yeah.
So what we really need to do is like kickstart things, and we need to have a couple of ways to get people to the site, and then we need to have like 1 or 2 other ways where we're sort of doing some outreach, right? So the inbound stuff is SEO, is the competitor comparison pages. We're working on a couple of like content pieces that I think will work pretty well. The kickstart stuff is, or we did product hunt. We're doing a couple of things to try to like make the most of the wait list that we have right now, and like people who are users but not customers. And then we have some collaboration things where we're getting in front of other people's audiences. And so I'm writing a couple of blog posts, doing a couple of workshops, gonna, schedule Derek to be on a couple of podcasts. And then we're going to call it a day, and we're not going to worry about, we've done some Twitter ads, but it's more of like an amplifier to some of the things we're already doing. But we're not going to go and run Facebook ads. We're not going to go run LinkedIn ads, at least not yet. Can revisit that, but at least right now, like you only need a couple of things.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you made me feel a lot better, and I felt guilty, man. I was just like, am I freaking leaving money on the table?
That's what I've been realizing. So many people feel guilty. That's the exact words that they say. That's the exact word I say, is I feel guilty for not doing more. When in reality, you should be doing less but better, right? You should really be focused on being active rather than passive, and being more intentional about it rather than kind of on a whim.
I think that's your next blog post. I don't know if you've written about it already.
But... Okay, that's my next one. It's going into Rome right now. What should I call it?
Don't feel guilty, or don't be guilty. And then fill in the blank. I don't know. Find something interesting, catchy for the blank. But I think that guilty bit is something that everyone identifies with. So I think it deserves to be in the title. Because like a lot of us kind of are essentially part-time marketers, right? Especially getting into this business, and we all have this imposter syndrome thing. It could be good for you to, it's not exactly on point for SwipeFiles, but it is just marketing related, and you could just be the guy. I like how Rand Fishkin kind of does it. Like he had Moz, but his whole thing was that it was just about SEO in general. Like he was the go-to person for SEO. So that's one way to do authority or brand building, whatever you call it.
Yeah. I'm not really worried. Like I kind of just want to spread my wings a little bit and talk about anything and everything marketing related. And then maybe later I'll focus or niche down, or maybe like my kind of like specialty or what people know me for will emerge from that. But I think people sometimes too, like they feel like they need to have a plan from the beginning about, this is what I want to be known for, and this is what I want to talk about, and this is like, I'm going to be the guy for this thing. And I don't know if you can like manufacture that. Sometimes it just kind of evolves. It happens over time.
Yeah. I'm like accidentally the guy for learning in public, but I didn't really plan that, and I don't want that to be my only thing, because I think it's kind of limiting. But
totally.
The guilty thing is just an idea. But that's my rule, right? Like it's called the 3 strikes rule, which is anytime it comes up 3 times, and then it seems like a pattern, and it seems like a thing that people talk about and think about, it's worth a blog post. Like it's not that hard.
I think that's so true. I've just been collecting a whole big. That's actually been one of the I kind of had an idea this might happen initially, but it's one of the reasons why I did want to take on consulting and mentoring before I went full-time on SwipeFiles, was because I knew that if I just got like in front of a lot of people and heard everything that they were going through,
exactly,
that I would really get to know what people are struggling with, how to describe it. It would be like kind of that passive customer research. And because I was missing, I got that at Barometrics, again, talking to 10 to 20 founders and marketing leaders a week. And I wanted to continue that a little bit. And now I'm kind of continuing that with my community as well, to try to like, be kind of ground level in the trenches, hear what's going on, have an ear to the floor. But like the things I've learned and seen, and like the ways people describe things through the mentoring and consulting has spurred up a lot of amazing ideas that I'll now use for SwipeFiles.
I mean, I can definitely relate. This will go a bit too long, but the whole so I'm consulting for a startup right now that's trying to get like a hosted cloud solution. It's a developer tool startup, and there are a lot of basic things that are just not there in the established solutions like Auth0 and Okta. And I was like, what the hell? This doesn't exist. Like, and you get these ideas to go build it because like, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, it's a huge opportunity. And I think this is I like this more than people who go directly into indie hacking, because when you do that, a lot of your ideas are B2C. And B2C sucks, right? Like everyone kind of knows like the reasons like churn and all that. So you work in B2B field for a while and you get B2B ideas, and hopefully that helps to get you better customers and all that. So
right. I was talking to a guy the other day who wanted to hop on the phone and kind of get some ideas for marketing for his product, and he was telling me about it, and he was like, well, he was in like this really obscure industry, like what was it? I couldn't even remember. Oh, it was like CPG, like product manufacturing, and he specifically specialized in the process management part of the manufacturing system of these CPG products. And he was like, okay, so my idea, I was like, one, you're probably like the only person in the entire world who would have this idea, so it's probably worth exploring. But also two, like, again, like, because he has that special expertise and knowledge, he can be the one to really speak to customers. He's going to know how to market. He's going to know. And when you pick a product or a market that you're not in, and you don't have some sort of way to get insight into it, you're at a huge disadvantage as an indie hacker. I mean, that's why I've chosen marketing as like all the products that I create, all the things that I do, all the things I talk about are all about marketing, because I know it. That's me. I have friends in it. I'm well connected in it. If I went and tried to start a startup around, oh, there's probably an opportunity in CPG, food manufacturing, process management, it would be a failure, like right from the start, because who am I to go into that industry? So it's definitely right. I mean, even by having these little experiences, you can get the ideas. But if I was consulting with him, maybe on the marketing for it, then I would get ideas about it, and I would learn to understand it. Maybe there's another idea out of that of, oh, look at this. That's why I'm doing the podcast. For SwipeFiles, the new one, it's called Everything's Marketing, is I want to talk to people to get ideas to uncover, hey, what are the interesting things that these people are doing, those people are doing. I want to write about that in the newsletter. I want to invite them into the community. And it's going to be this flywheel where I'm going to expose myself to all these new ideas that I don't have to manufacture. I can just swipe from other people and get exposed to them.
I like it. Swipe from other people. That's a little bit what I do for blogging as well. Yeah, cool. Well, this is a really great chat. I'm gonna put down a bunch of links. I actually like prepared a bunch of links just because I knew what we were going to be talking about. But when your podcast is out, I'm gonna send people there too. But thanks so much for joining me for this recording.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it was a blast. And let me know if there's anything else I can do for you.
All right, I'm gonna pause now.